Welcome to The Coach's Call, a podcast by the Texas High School Coaches Association. In this show, Chris Daly introduces you to coaches across all sports and highlights the positive impact of public schools and high school athletics. Chris will introduce his guest after these messages.
Hello, Coaches Call listeners. This is Joe Martin, Executive Director of Texas High School Coaches Association. Thank you for listening to our new podcast. This is a new adventure for us. Our goal is with this podcast to help spread the stories of all positive things coaches in our great state do for athletes. We also want to keep you updated with all the THSCA initiatives our members can take advantage of. As you go through your season, don't forget to nominate your best athletes for our Super Elite teams. We will have teams from each sport and classification under the UIL umbrella. Also, we need your help recognizing the state's amazing assistant coaches and head coaches. As coaches typically don't have a problem recognizing their athletes, but we struggle when it comes to patting ourselves on the back. So let's change it. Make it a priority to help us recognize the great work that coaches do in the state of Texas. Finally, put February 3 on your calendar right now. Saturday, February the 3rd, we will have our annual regional meetings. This is a great opportunity to gather with area coaches, get THSCA updates, and nominate people for THSCA awards. This is open to all coaches of all sports, and it's the perfect way to network with coaches in your area. So go to THSCA.com to find nomination forms, deadlines, regional meeting sites, and much, much more. We want to thank all of our coaches for the work they do for students every day. We will continue to support you by helping coaches help kids. Thank you.
Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? It is the absolute best way to grow your brand, spread your message, and build your following. Fresh Media Works can help. We do all the heavy lifting, and you just focus on your message. To find out how easy we can make launching your new podcast, call 713-269-4620 or check us out at freshmediaworks.com.
The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com. All right, everybody, join me in welcoming Coach Glen West to the show. Glen, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Doing super.
Awesome. So, of course, we're going to get to the fact that you are the Assistant Executive Director at the THSCA, but first, I like to start with where you grew up.
I grew up in Brownwood, Texas. I was a son of an assistant coach that actually was coached by Gordon Wood, and
nice.
then actually my father had a tough time. It was during the Depression, and his dad was a dryland farmer in Stanford, Texas, with cotton. And back then, when you had to borrow money each year for your crops, you had to put your horses up for collateral. It was before they actually had tractors. And anyway, he went through the drought, as history shows, and when that happened, he had to file bankruptcy. So his bankruptcy was they took his land and they took his animals. So he had to leave and go at that point and work for the WPA, and so he had to leave Stanford, and my grandmother, in this terrible thing that happened, actually had a nervous breakdown. And so back then, when that happened, they put you in a mental institution. So they put her in a mental institution, and I think it was in Wichita Falls. And so it was these three boys left behind, and Coach Wood came into Stanford as the head football coach, and saw this big guy, my dad, and he wasn't playing football at the time. And he said, you need to play. And he said, well, I can't. So I got to take care of my family, and so I've got to work. And anyway, now it's totally legal, but, Coach Wood got him into a boarding house to be able to eat. So they'd have 3 meals a day, and just watched over them. And then my dad was lucky enough to get a scholarship, and he went to play football at Hardin-Simmons for Sammy Ball. And so Sammy Ball was his coach, and they were the traveling Cowboys. They played almost every game on the road, and they played Texas Tech and Rice and Baylor and Arizona State and Arizona, and just in the border conference is what they were in at that time. And that happened, and he served some time in the military. When he finished his duty, Coach Wood hired him in Victoria, Texas, and that was his first job, and ended up going to Brownwood after that, and I was born, so my history was all in Brownwood from a very small person, and I couldn't wait every day after school to get up to the field house and to help them. What I thought was helping them, I was probably in their way, but I grew up at the field house, so that's what I knew. And fortunately, during the time of me growing up, I was born in 61, so 65, 67, 69, 70, all were state championship teams. So that's what I learned. And when I was a junior in high school, we won the state in 78. So my 3 years in high school were 77, 78, and 79. We lost state championship game in 77 to Dickinson and Donnie Little. And then in 78, we won the state championship. And then my senior year in 79, we lost to Beaumont Abear in the quarterfinals. So then from there, I went to Angelo State to play football. Started playing, but didn't finish. I had a shoulder injury that reoccurred. So I didn't play. And I helped as I could with the college team, and knew I was going into the coaching world. And so I stayed close to the team and stayed involved, and then started coaching.
And where was your first gig?
My first coaching job was in Belton, Texas. Coached for Dick Stafford for 3 years, and coached there for 3. Then I moved on to Kelly Reeves at Round Rock Westwood, and 2 years for him. And then I went 3 years as defensive coordinator at Memorial High School in Houston. And then I got my first head job in Kemp, Texas, on Lake Cedar Creek. And I did that for 6 years. Then I spent my last 20 years as head coach in Brenham, Texas.
Yeah, I think I was in Houston when you were in Brenham, and I remember you had a big old tight end there for a year or two, and I can't remember his name, but he was a specimen.
Malcolm Brown was one of them, and he's played in the NFL for a long time. Played at the University of Texas, was a tight end and defensive lineman. And Cortland Sutton is still playing right now for the Broncos. He was a receiver. Lima Swede was another receiver at Brenham that played at Texas and Pittsburgh. So tell me how. I guess while you were at Brenham, you obviously were part of the THSCA. You're a member. How did you transition to becoming the assistant executive director there? Well, that's interesting. First of all, as I said earlier, I followed my dad's footsteps, and he was very involved in THSCA his entire career. Coach Wood thought that it was something that was extremely important. and really made sure all of his coaches were involved, and so much so that Coach Southall was another assistant coach on Coach Wood's staff, and to my knowledge, he's the only president of THSCA that wasn't a head coach. He became president of THSCA, and he was an assistant coach. And so Dad was a board of director, and he just always told me it's really important. So, just always was involved. Our staff always was involved. And then Bob Gillis nominated me to be a board of director from the Houston region, Region 5, and I was able for that to happen. And so I was a board of director and then was elected president, I think in 17, if I'm not mistaken, 2017. And then while I was the director, got really, really enjoyed what was happening. And so, Coach Martin, as he took over, asked me to come go to work with him. And it was a great move for me.
Nice. And back in your coaching days, it seems like every coach I've ever interviewed, when they start, it's all about the X's and O's and all about, the strategy of coaching. And somehow it changes to, the saying is from the X's and O's to the Jimmies and Joes, and it becomes about the kids. When was that transition for you?
I'm probably a little different. My entire life, we had somebody with us, whether it was a foreign exchange student or a kid that's parents had a tragedy and they needed a place to stay for a month or for a week, or one person had a really bad situation in his life and his parents weren't around at all, and he until he could get situated, he was with us almost an entire year. So our home was always open to help kids, and so that's what I knew. So I was probably different in that relationships were very important to me from the very, very beginning. And of course, being a coach's son, and being in the locker room, all I ever wanted to be was one of them. So when I grew up, all I wanted to do was coach them.
Awesome. And when you go to the THSCA, it becomes about coaching coaches. Actually, as a head coach, it becomes about coaching coaches. So talk about that transition. Well,
I'll never forget, Coach Martin asked me, Joe asked me to come go to work, and it was a quick yes. Immediate. And really the reason for that is I was 34 years of coaching. It was to the end of my career, and I didn't know what I was going to do. As I get ready to retire, I knew that I wanted to stay involved, and with all coaches, it becomes a mission, and they're doing it for the kids, and they need to feel or want to feel important. We all do, and so I just didn't know what that would be. And when he asked me to do that, it was like winning the lottery. I was like, I can't believe this. Yes. Well, he told me when you did that, he said, I want to warn you, it's not going to be quite as easy as you think. And I just couldn't imagine that. I said, it's going to be, this is great. But he was right. It took a year, the divorce, so to speak, from the field house and from your coaches, and just it was tough. And I've said this before, but I got older in a hurry, because when you're in the locker room every day, you're young. You stay they keep you young. You know everything that's going on. You're relevant, and the minute you step away from that, there creates a distance.
And what were some of the big surprises switching to this world versus the coaching world, as far as what the THSCA does?
Having just been the president and being on the board, I saw firsthand what THSCA did and the mission and what they believe in. And that was another reason for being so excited to do it, because when you get closely connected, you see the vision. You see, D.W. Rutledge, his vision was amazing. Eddie Joseph before then, his vision was amazing. And so each person has brought it into another level. And it's not a surprise, but I marvel at Joe Martin, to be honest. Just his attention to detail, his never ever relaxing, or he relaxes, but he doesn't relax for very many days. He's back at it. He stays on. He wants to make sure that focus doesn't get away. He's actually like a coach. And we are not afraid to take on any task that will help coaches. So it wasn't a surprise, but the part that just feels really good is to know that what you see is really truly what's going on. There's never a time that you just, I think they're working hard, but I don't know what they're doing. We're constantly in a direction, and I'm not saying that to be bragging. I'm just saying that it's fun to be a part of something that we really are making a difference, and I truly believe that we are.
Definitely, and one of the areas that the THSCA in recent years has made a huge difference is in girls sports and female coaches. Talk about the push in that direction, the importance.
Well, I don't know. I know when the association was first started, it was a football organization, and very quickly into it, they dropped it from football. But, because a football coach was the AD, or at least the campus coordinator for years was the AD, it was more of a football-driven association. And, in females, they had they got their own association. Girls, the Texas Girls Coaches Association happened because THSCA was more for the male, and so that changed though, and it started changing where the women were more represented. Even when I was still coaching, it started changing, and when we would go to coaches' school, some of our female coaches would go. But I can't say that it was emphasized. It was just it was there, and I think what really took place was that as Joe and I, when I first took the job, I lived with Joe because my wife was still teaching in Brenham, so I lived with Joe and Peggy for the first couple of months that I went to work, and so work kind of never stopped. We'd go home and we would talk about. In the evening, we would go on into the night as we talked about things that we wanted to do. And one of the things that we talked about was that we both had a real passion for it. And I guess that's why he picked me, because we both wanted, we wanted two things. We wanted to make sure that we were truly diversified and that we were representing every coach, gender-wise, sport-wise, it didn't matter. And also wanted to make sure that the junior high coach and the assistant coach was being represented just like the other coaches. And then also we wanted to have a mentoring program. So those were two things that were extremely important. And again, as I said earlier, a lot of times you say things and say, I'm going to get back to that someday. I mean, that didn't happen. We immediately hit the road and started expanding. So I remember leaving the AD's convention in Waco, and it was said that there's a boys' coaching school and a girls' coaching school. And we got in the parking lot, and it really bugged Joe and myself. It bugged both of us, and we just kind of looked at each other. And at that moment, we said, you know what? If we're going to call ourselves the Texas High School Coaches Association, we need to make sure we're representing everybody. And I really say it was that moment that things started flipping, and we just started being extremely intentional to make sure that was happening.
Definitely. And you mentioned the mentoring program. For those who aren't real familiar with it, just kind of give an explanation.
Well, as you get older, you hear more and more people say, these young people, they don't understand what we went through. They don't know what's going on. And, we heard that for years. We need a mentoring program. We need to mentor them. We need to teach them ropes, this kind of stuff. And which is true. And everybody would agree, but you'd walk away and nothing was really ever done. And then the other side of it was that kind of hit us between the eyes that they had done a study. And I don't remember the year, but I'm going to say it's around 17 or 18. And the study showed that that 20% of 36,000, it wasn't just coaches, but it was people that were being paid for extracurriculars. So it could have been drill team instructors, band instructors, whatever. But they at that time they thought it was 36,000, and 6,000 of them a year were getting out of the profession. I mean, and it just was terrifying. We're like, that's 20%, and they're getting out. And what was amazing about it was in their first or fifth year. So people were getting into coaching because they thought it's what their love. They enjoyed playing, but within 5 years they got disgruntled or discouraged, and they got out. And what we were finding out is it was the good ones that were getting out. It was, a coach that's finds a way to keep his job. He's gonna, he's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the guy that is up and comer. Somebody she's going to be a person that's going to be a leader, a head coach, in her school and in her district. And she's getting out. He's getting out because they're talented enough to do other things, and they get courted, and they just didn't have a why to stay in it. And so we said, we need a mentoring program that is diversified and truly speaks to everybody, and we're going to give them the tools to stay in here and help them with their reason. They've got it. We just need to constantly remind them and then help them with how to do it. So we decided, and like I said, we went. Another thing we did is we went around the whole state of Texas and tried to visit as many places as we could. And so it gave us a lot of time, just us two in a car together. And we decided that, they need this older coach. And so we do it kind of in a retreat style where they get together for 3 days or 2 days. And after they're together and get to know each other, then they have a relationship between a mentor and a mentee, and they talk to each other every other week or once a week. And we give them topics. A&M came in and has material, and it's not hard. It's like read this article, watch this quick video, and it'll spur on conversations for that mentor with the young coach. The next thing that happened that it was brilliant. This was Joe's idea. He said, "But I think once that person has gone through it for a year, I think they need to come back and be an advocate, because now." To this young coach, not only are they getting this older coach that's helping them, but then somebody's just been in the program that's there to know about their day-to-day needs. So that's really how the program goes.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And if you could tell, a lot of the audience early on will be coaches. If you could tell coaches one bit of advice or maybe ask them something that can help the association, what would you tell them?
I think the advice I would say is that when you wake up every morning, understand as things hit you in the face that are not pleasant, whether you're hearing about the schools being defunded or people talking about how public schools are not what they used to be, and or kids aren't the same, or parents are a lot worse, and all the things that go with that. I think understanding that when you have a mission and your mission is to really to save our country, because working with young people and teaching them how to work, to get up off the mat when they've been knocked down, to get better each and every day, to sacrifice themselves for the other. I mean, I can't think of anything that's any more important than what's taught in athletics. And just to make sure that you understand that I'm not going to listen to all that. I've got a mission, I've got a goal, and I'm going to keep doing it. Whether I lost last week, or lost 5 in a row, or whether I got called into the office because of having a parent conference, I'm going to continue to keep my eyes on the prize, and that's the student athlete.
I love that. And finally, about coaching school, what is something about coaching school that you think some coaches may miss and need to pay attention to?
Well, I think a huge part of coaching school, is sports specific, but another huge part of coaching school is how to develop into what they want to be in their future, what their goals are, whether it be a head coach one day or a coordinator one day or even an athletic director or more. All those things are offered at coaching school. All those things there's tons of things that you can immerse yourself in to be able to help you get your goals. So it would be to not only go to sports-specific activities, but also go to professional development activities to help them through their career.
I love it. Coach Glen West, gosh, I want to thank you for all that you do, but also for sitting down with me and sharing some of this story.
Well, I'm thrilled to. Like I said earlier, my whole passion in life is to help kids and to help athletes, and for that to happen is to help coaches, and want to support those people that are out there on the front lines. Thank you.
Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You hear it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Daly, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call.